The market was loud that day, full of voices, full of noise. But in the middle of that busy street, a small figure walked slowly, her head down, her feet bare on the dusty ground. She was a little alien girl, no more than 10 years old. Her clothes were torn, her face was pale, and her eyes told a story of hunger and pain. She carried a small piece of cloth in her hands, like it was treasure, but it was nothing more than an old rag. Traders laughed at her, children pointed at her, and even the guards looked away as if she was invisible. She stopped near a fruit stall, her hands shaking, her stomach crying louder than the voices around her. "Please, just one piece," she whispered. But the alien merchant shouted at her, "Go away, beggar. We don't feed rats here." The girl stepped back, her eyes filling with tears. She wanted to run, but her body was too weak, so she stayed there, hoping someone would show mercy. From the other side of the market, a human man was watching. He was an earthling who had come to trade small tools. He was not rich, he was not powerful, but he had a heart that noticed things others ignored. His name was Daniel, and when his eyes met the girl's eyes, something strange happened. He felt a sharp pull inside his chest. Daniel walked closer, his boots heavy on the stone street. He saw how the alien merchant pushed the girl away, how the crowd avoided her, but the girl did not shout, did not fight. She just stood quietly, holding her rag as if it could protect her. "Are you hungry?" Daniel asked softly. His voice almost lost in the market noise. The girl looked up, her big silver eyes glowing faintly under the sun. She nodded once, but she did not speak. Her lips were dry, her body thin. Daniel took a small piece of bread from his pack and held it out. The girl hesitated, her hands trembling. Then slowly she reached for it. When the bread touched her fingers, she pulled it back quickly like she thought he would hit her, but he did not. He just smiled. "It's yours, eat," he said. She bit the bread, and the taste brought life back into her face. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she kept eating. Daniel stood there quietly watching her. People around whispered, "Why is a human helping that thing? He will regret it. She's cursed." But Daniel ignored them. When the bread was gone, the girl lowered her head again. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice broken but clear. It was the first kind word she had spoken in days. Daniel kneeled so his eyes were level with hers. "Where are your parents?" he asked. The girl shook her head. "No parents, no home," she said, and her little hands clutched the rag tighter. For a moment Daniel felt anger, not at her, but at the world that allowed this. A child alone, unwanted, starving. He looked at the alien merchant who had pushed her. He looked at the guards who had turned their heads, and he realized, if he walked away now, she would die before another sunrise. "Come with me," Daniel said, his voice steady. The girl blinked, confused. "Why?" she asked. Daniel answered with a small smile. "Because no child should live like this, not while I can help." The girl stared at him, her eyes wide. She did not trust easily. She had been betrayed too many times, but there was something in his voice, something different. She nodded slowly, her thin fingers holding his hand like it was the last safe place in the universe. Together they walked through the market. Whispers followed them, people stared. But Daniel did not care. He knew he had made a choice, and that choice would change his life forever. As they reached the edge of the market, the girl looked back one last time, her rag pressed against her chest, her eyes shining in the fading light. Somewhere deep inside her, she carried a secret she could not share yet, a secret that even Daniel could not imagine. But for now she was just a girl in rags, walking beside a human who refused to turn away. Daniel led the little alien girl out of the noisy market, his hand holding hers gently. She walked slowly, her feet dragging, her body weak. Every few steps she glanced back, as if afraid someone would come and take her away. When they reached the small street where Daniel lived, the girl stopped, her eyes wide. "You really want me here?" she asked softly, her voice shaking. Daniel bent down so his face was level with hers. "Yes, I do," he said firmly. "You are safe with me now." His home was small, made of stone and wood, nothing rich or grand, just a simple place where he stayed during his trading trips. But to the girl, it looked like a palace compared to the alleys she had been sleeping in. She stood at the doorway, too nervous to step inside. Daniel smiled. "Go on," he said. "It's just a house. But tonight it is yours too." The girl finally stepped inside. The warmth from the small fire touched her skin, and for the first time in weeks she felt the cold leave her bones. He gave her water to drink, then warm soup. She ate slowly, careful not to spill. Every bite seemed like a gift. When she finished, she whispered again, "Thank you." Daniel nodded. "You don't need to thank me, little one. You need rest." He brought out a blanket, old but clean, and spread it on the small bed. "You can sleep here," he said, but the girl shook her head, fear in her eyes. "Beds are for owners." "Not for me," she whispered. Daniel's chest tightened, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. "You are not property," Daniel said firmly. "You are a child, and children belong in beds, not on the floor." He lifted her gently and placed her on the mattress. She froze at first like she expected punishment, but when nothing happened, her small body relaxed slowly under the blanket. That night, while the girl slept, Daniel sat near the fire thinking. He was just a trader, just a simple human. He had no great power, no family of his own, but now, a decision pressed against his heart. Should he keep this child with him, raise her as his own, or should he leave her at the orphanage in the city, where at least she would be fed? He remembered the whispers at the market, people calling her cursed, unwanted, less than nothing. He imagined her in the cold hands of strangers who would never see her as more than a burden, and he shook his head. No, he could not let that happen. When morning came, the girl woke up, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the sunlight. She looked around, almost surprised she was still there. Daniel placed bread on the table and said, "Eat." She sat down carefully, like she was afraid to break something. After a long silence, she asked, "Why are you kind to me, human?" "No one else is." Daniel thought for a moment, then answered simply, "Because it is the right thing to do." The girl studied him, her face unreadable. Then she said, "Most people see me as dirt. You see me as something else." Her words were strange, almost too mature for her small age. Daniel wondered what kind of life had forced her to think this way. Later that day, Daniel went to the city office to ask about guardianship. The clerk looked at him like he was crazy. "You want to adopt an alien girl?" The clerk scoffed. "You humans don't even mix bloodlines with them. And this one, she has no records, no past, just trouble." But Daniel stood tall, his voice calm but unshakable. "Every child deserves a home, and I will give her one," the clerk sighed, stamped the paper and muttered, "Your life, your problem. Don't come crying when you regret it." Daniel ignored him, took the papers and walked out. When he returned home, the girl was sitting quietly by the fire, holding the rag close to her chest. Daniel placed the papers in front of her. "From today you are mine, not as a slave, not as a servant, but as my daughter." Her silver eyes widened, tears filled them, and she whispered, "Daughter? Me?" "Yes," Daniel said, kneeling beside her. "If you will accept me as your father." The girl dropped the rag, her small hands reaching for him. She hugged him tightly, her voice breaking as she cried, "Yes. Yes, Father." That night, Daniel felt something he had never felt before. Not just kindness, not just duty, but love. A bond forming between human and alien. Stronger than any law, stronger than any border. But outside his little house, shadows still moved. Unseen eyes watching, waiting. Because this girl in rags was not what she seemed, and soon, her hidden truth would shake both their lives. The days after the adoption passed quietly at first. The little alien girl stayed close to Daniel. Never leaving his side, she was shy but also curious. She would touch the tools in his shop, watch the fire burn, and ask soft questions about Earth, about humans, about things she had never known. Daniel answered with patience. Always gentle, always kind, he wanted her to feel safe. But deep in his heart he noticed something strange. Sometimes at night, when she thought he was asleep, the girl would whisper words in a language he did not know. The sound was soft, flowing like music but filled with sorrow. One evening, Daniel took her outside to see the stars. The sky was bright with 1,000 lights. The girl's silver eyes reflected them. She pointed at one of the brightest stars and whispered, "That was once my home." Daniel froze, confused, but before he could ask, she grew silent and held his hand tightly. "It doesn't matter anymore," she said quickly. Changing the subject still, Daniel felt a cold weight in his chest. He sensed she carried something heavy, something she was hiding. But he decided not to push her. Not yet. The market was not kind after that day. Whispers followed Daniel wherever he went. "The human has gone mad," some said. "He adopted a cursed girl." Others spat. "She will bring him ruin." But Daniel did not care. Every time he saw her smile when she ate or laugh when she touched something new, he knew he had made the right choice. But trouble had a way of finding them. One night, as Daniel was locking his shop, he noticed a shadow standing far away under the street lamp. The figure was cloaked, its face hidden. Daniel felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. When he turned to look again, the shadow was gone. He told himself it was nothing, but the next day, he saw the same cloaked figure near the market, watching silently when he tried to walk closer. The figure slipped away into the crowd. The girl noticed too, her body tense whenever they stepped outside. She whispered once, "They found me." But when Daniel asked what she meant, she shook her head and refused to explain that night. Daniel woke to a strange sound outside his home, a soft scraping against the window. He grabbed the small iron staff he kept by the bed and moved quietly. The girl was awake too, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She whispered, "Don't open the door," her voice sharp, almost commanding. Suddenly, there was a loud knock, heavy and urgent. Daniel's heart raced. "Who is it?" he demanded. No answer came, only silence. Then the sound of footsteps retreating into the night. When he opened the door carefully, no one was there. Only a strange mark scratched into the wood, a symbol he did not recognize. The girl stared at it, her face pale. "They're hunters," she said softly. "They won't stop now." Daniel knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. "Hunters? Who are they after?" he asked. The girl lowered her head, tears filling her eyes. "Me," she whispered. The next day, Daniel noticed more signs. Strangers in the market asking questions. Guards patrolling more than usual. Even neighbors acting differently. Some avoided him. Others stared at the girl with fear. That evening, when Daniel returned home, he found the girl sitting by the fire, her rag clutched in her hands. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "I should go," she said. "If I stay, they will come for you too." Daniel's jaw tightened. His hands clenched into fists. "No," he said firmly. "I chose you. I will protect you no matter what comes." But the shadows did not wait long. On the third night, while the fire burned low, masked figures moved quietly through the streets, their boots silent, their cloaks dark. They reached Daniel's house and tried to push the door open. Daniel jumped to his feet, staff in hand. The girl screamed, the sound echoing through the small room. The intruders froze for a moment, their eyes falling on her glowing silver eyes. One of them hissed, "It's true, the mark is real," before they could attack. The girl raised her hand, and for a split second, a strange light shimmered across her skin like a hidden seal. The intruders gasped and retreated quickly into the night. Daniel held her tightly as she shook in his arms. "What did they mean? What is the mark?" he asked, but the girl only cried, "I didn't want you to know yet. I didn't want you to be in danger." He looked at her, determination hardening in his eyes. "Danger or not, I will not abandon you," he said. The girl stared at him through her tears, her voice small but heavy with truth. "You don't understand, Daniel. I am not just a beggar in rags, I am something more." Her words hung in the air, filling the room with silence. And Daniel realized the life he thought he was choosing had just become far more dangerous than he ever imagined. The night after the attack was long and restless. Daniel kept the iron staff close, his eyes never leaving the door. The little alien girl sat near the fire, her silver eyes glowing faintly. She held the rag tight against her chest, trembling. "Who were they?" Daniel asked finally, his voice low, steady. But inside he was burning with anger. The girl did not answer. She only stared at the flames, her lips pressed tightly together. Daniel knelt beside her, his hand gentle on her shoulder. "I cannot protect you if I do not know the truth," he said. The girl turned to him, her face pale, her eyes wet with tears. "The truth will put you in danger too," she whispered. "Danger found us already," Daniel replied firmly. "I need to understand why." For a long moment she was silent. Then slowly, she pulled down the rag from her chest. Beneath the fabric, carved into her skin, was a glowing mark, a crest of light shaped like a crown surrounded by stars. Daniel's breath caught. It shimmered with power, alive, like fire trapped beneath her skin. "What is this?" he asked, shock clear in his voice. The girl's voice broke as she said, "It is the royal seal of Arvani, the mark of the true bloodline. I was their princess." Daniel froze, his mind spinning, the child he had taken in. The beggar in rags was no ordinary orphan. She carried royal blood, a throne hidden in her veins. He stared at her, speechless. She lowered her eyes, ashamed. "I never wanted you to know. I never wanted you to see me as anything but a child. I just wanted a family," her voice cracked, her small hands shaking. "But the hunters know. They want me dead because if I live, the kingdom might rise again." Daniel felt the ground shift beneath him. All the whispers in the market, all the stares, suddenly made sense. This was not just about kindness anymore. This was war. This was power, and he had unknowingly stepped into it. Still, when he looked at her, He did not see a throne or a crown, he saw a fragile child. Hungry, alone, desperate for love. He cupped her face gently. Princess or not, you are my daughter now, and I will never give you up. The girl's tears spilled. She leaned into his chest. You don't understand, she sobbed. Entire armies hunt me. Entire worlds want me gone. Being near me will destroy you. Daniel shook his head. Let them come, he said. I would rather stand against armies than abandon you. The girl stared at him, shocked. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever chosen her over safety. She whispered, Why do you care so much? Daniel's answer was simple. Because no child should face the darkness alone. That night, the house was silent but heavy with tension. Daniel sharpened his tools, preparing himself while the girl lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking of the world she had lost. Her memories returned, fragments of a burning palace, soldiers dragging her mother away, her father's final words echoing, Run, little star, hide, survive. She had fled with nothing but a rag, a cover for the royal seal until Daniel had found her. The next morning, rumors spread in the city, whispers of a royal child living in hiding. The hunter's mark scratched into Daniel's door was seen by neighbors. Fear grew. Some people avoided him entirely. Others began to whisper threats in the marketplace. An old alien woman stopped Daniel, her eyes sharp. Be careful, human, if you shelter her. You invite death, Daniel's jaw tightened. Then I will face it, he said simply. Back at home, the girl sat quietly, her hands on the glowing seal. Daniel joined her. Does it hurt? He asked. She shook her head. No, it is not pain, it is power, but power I never wanted. Her voice was filled with sadness. Daniel looked at her. Power or not, you are still a child and you deserve to live, not just survive. That evening, the shadows returned again. Daniel saw them from the window, cloaked figures moving in the dark. This time they did not approach. They only watched, as if waiting, as if planning. The girl whispered, They will not stop, not until I am dead. Or taken. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. Then they will learn I do not give up easily. Her silver eyes met his, a flicker of hope inside them for the first time. She believed someone might truly stand for her, not because of her blood, not because of her seal, but because she was worth saving, and deep inside she made a choice. If the hunters came again, she would not hide. She would stand beside the human who had given her a home, even if it meant facing the empire that once ruled her life. The fire burned low that night, and in the quiet glow, Daniel realized his life had changed forever. He had not just adopted a child, he had adopted a princess, and with her came a storm that would test every corner of his soul. The morning sun rose over the small town, but peace was gone. Daniel felt it in the air. The market was quieter than usual. Eyes followed him and the girl wherever they walked. Whispers spread like fire. The little alien girl clutched his hand tightly, her silver eyes darting to every corner. She knew the hunters were near. She could almost feel their presence. Her small voice trembled. They are closing in, she whispered. Daniel squeezed her hand. Let them try, he said firmly, though his heart was heavy with worry. That afternoon, Daniel went to buy food. The merchant hesitated before giving him bread. Take it, the merchant muttered, but you should leave before it's too late. The hunters do not forgive. Daniel ignored him and walked back home, but he could feel the weight of every stare pressing against his back. At night, the storm began. 3 figures cloaked in black approached the house, their eyes glowing faint red beneath their masks. They moved silently, weapons strapped to their belts. Daniel was already awake, staff in hand. The girl stood behind him, her body shaking. The first hunter kicked the door open, wood cracking. Daniel swung his staff with all his strength, striking the intruder's chest. The hunter staggered but did not fall. A second rushed forward with a blade. Daniel blocked clumsily, the clash sending sparks across the room. The girl screamed, her eyes glowing brighter than before, the seal on her chest flickering with strange light. The hunters froze for a second, whispering in their tongue. It is her, the princess. Daniel pushed forward, his strength fueled by anger. You will not take her, he shouted. But the hunters laughed. You are only human, one hissed. You cannot stop us. The fight raged inside the small home. Daniel struck again and again. But the hunters were trained killers, faster, stronger. One grabbed him by the arm and threw him against the wall. Pain shot through his body. The girl cried out, Father! The hunters advanced toward her, their hands reaching out. But the seal on her chest flared. A sudden burst of light filled the room, throwing the hunters back. They hissed in pain, clutching their eyes. She carries the true power, one growled. Daniel forced himself up, blood on his lip. He grabbed his staff again and charged. Striking one across the head, the hunter fell to the ground. Stunned, the others pulled back, realizing they could not take her by force tonight. "This is not over," the leader spat. "The Empire will come for her, and when they do, no human will stand in our way." With that, they vanished into the shadows, leaving only silence and fear behind. The girl ran to Daniel, tears running down her cheeks. "You're hurt," she whispered, her small hands shaking as they touched his arm. Daniel pulled her close. "I'm fine." "Don't cry," he said, but his body ached, and he knew more hunters would come, stronger, better prepared. That night they did not sleep. Daniel kept watch. The girl sat beside him, clutching the rag that had once hidden her seal. "I should leave," she said softly. "If I go, they will stop hunting you." Daniel turned to her, his eyes hard. "No, they will not stop. They will never stop. The only way is to fight, together." The girl looked at him confused. "But I am only a child," she whispered. Daniel shook his head. "You are more than that. You are brave, stronger than you think, and you are not alone anymore." The following day, the attacks grew bolder. Strangers in the streets asked Daniel questions. Some tried to follow him. The town guards looked the other way. It was clear the hunters had bribed them. Danger was closing from every side. Daniel prepared. He gathered tools, turned metal scraps into weapons, set traps around the house. He was not a soldier, but he was human, and humans fought hardest when protecting family. The girl helped in small ways, holding nails, carrying wood. Even though fear filled her heart, she refused to leave his side. Every time Daniel looked at her, he saw not just an orphan, not just a princess, but his daughter, the child he had chosen. That night, as the fire burned low, Daniel spoke, his voice steady. "They will come again, maybe with more men, maybe with soldiers, but we will stand, and we will not break." The girl listened, her eyes wide. "Why do you believe in me so much?" she asked. Daniel smiled softly. "Because when I found you, I saw more than rags. I saw hope, and I will not let hope die." The girl leaned against him, silent tears falling. Her heart filled with something she had never felt before. Trust, but outside, in the darkness, the hunters gathered once more, this time not 3, but many, waiting for the signal to strike. The storm had only just begun. The days after the hunters' attack were tense. The little alien girl stayed close to Daniel, never letting go of his hand. She could not sleep without waking in fear, her silver eyes searching the shadows. Every sound in the night felt like danger. Daniel did not show his worry, but inside his mind raced. He knew the hunters would return, stronger. Maybe with soldiers. He also knew that their lives had changed forever. He had adopted a daughter, but he had also stepped into a war he did not understand. One morning, a messenger arrived in secret. Cloaked and nervous, he handed Daniel a small piece of parchment. "For the child," he whispered, then vanished before Daniel could ask more. The girl unfolded it with shaking hands. Her eyes widened as she read. The paper carried a symbol, the crest of the Arvani rebels, a group loyal to the lost royal bloodline. The note was short. "Princess, we beg you, return with us, reclaim your throne. Only you can bring hope back to our people." Her hands trembled. She dropped the note. Daniel picked it up, reading the words. His jaw tightened, so the rebels knew she was alive too. He looked at her gently. "What do you want to do?" he asked. Her voice was small, almost broken. "I don't know. Part of me wants to go to help them, to stop the hunters, but another part just wants to stay here, to be your daughter. Nothing more." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to decide now," he said, but she shook her head. "I must. If I do nothing, more people will die. If I try to be only a child, the Empire will never stop." That night, she dreamed of her parents again. Her mother's face kind, her father's voice strong. "You are the last light of Arvani, little star," he said. "Never forget who you are." She woke up crying. Daniel sat beside her, holding her hand until the tears stopped. The next day, 3 rebels arrived at the edge of town. They knelt before the girl, calling her "Your Highness." She pulled back, uncomfortable. "Do not call me that," she whispered. "I am not a princess, I am just a girl." But the rebels shook their heads. "No, you are our only hope. Without you, we are lost." Daniel watched silently. His heart heavy, he saw the confusion in her eyes. The burden she carried was too heavy for such small shoulders. She looked at him desperately. "What should I do, father?" she asked. Daniel knelt in front of her, his eyes steady. "This is not my choice, it is yours." I will stand with you no matter what you decide. She turned to the rebels, her hands shaking. If I return with you, will you promise no child will suffer the way I did? No one left starving, no one abandoned. The rebels bowed their heads. We swear it. The girl closed her eyes, her small chest rising and falling. Then she spoke, her voice clear though filled with pain. I will not abandon the people, but I will not abandon him either. She looked at Daniel, her eyes shining. Where I go, he goes. He is my father. The rebels hesitated, exchanging looks. It is dangerous, one warned. The Empire will hunt you both. Daniel stepped forward, his voice like iron. Then let them. I will fight them until my last breath. The girl reached for his hand, holding it tightly. Then I choose, she said, her voice steady for the first time. I choose both. I choose to be the princess they need, and the daughter you gave me the chance to be. Daniel felt a strange pride in his chest. Stronger than any fear, she was only a child, but her courage was greater than any warrior he had seen. That night they prepared to leave the town. Daniel packed supplies, weapons, food. The girl sat quietly, staring at the fire. She whispered softly, I was afraid before. Afraid of who I am, but not anymore because I am not alone. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. You were never alone, little star, he said, using the name her father had once spoken in her dreams. She looked at him in shock, then smiled through her tears as dawn broke. The rebels guided them toward the mountains, shadows of hunters already moving in the distance. The girl did not tremble this time. Her steps were small but steady, her choice made, her destiny claimed. She was still the girl in rags, but now she carried the fire of a princess, and beside her walked the human who had refused to leave her. Together they would face whatever came next.